Hello everyone, welcome to highvibe.tv. I'm David Palmer, the Leo King, and I'm super excited to be talking about Stepping Through the Portal, this live awesome show we're doing here at High Vibe TV Studios here in Southern California. And today I've got the Peace Dealer with me. How you doing today?
I'm all right, David. Thank you.
I'm super excited to have the Peace Dealer on with me again today because if a lot of people don't know, him and I actually met each other online through astrology in 2010.
I didn't think it was that long ago, but it really was 2010.
Yeah, it really was.
Like the end of 2010 into 2011.
And it was at the beginning of Uranus that had entered into Aries. And here we are, this transit has ended, and we're sitting on a stage together.
Yeah.
But I think that when we talk about portals, you know, a lot of the spiritual community will like use everything like, it's 11, 11, 11. It's a portal. Or we just had 333, right? I was in Vegas for that. And I was like, 333, oh, I guess, yeah, 2019 equals 3, okay.
Ah, there we go.
Right? So I think there's these very minor portals, so I'm not going to say that they don't happen. But in astrology, I think we take portals a little bit more serious, if that makes sense.
No, definitely.
What would you consider a portal, Mike?
I like to see the mutable signs as portals.
Oh.
Yeah. Like every time we shift seasons, we're changing our habits and attitudes, which is kind of like a portal.
You're like a living portal since you are a mutable sign?
Yeah, I like to think that. I like to think that too.
I guess my fixed sign, Leo, is like, oh my gosh, there's something happening. The kingdom, there's a portal popping up out of nowhere. Than the stars, you know?
Yeah. No.
What do you, like, so, it's funny because for me, I always look at portals, eclipse seasons are always a portalistic energy of like, I always look at the moon crossing over the sun as like a new slide coming in. Or I've like actually looked at it in a more harsh way, like a cigar cutter. The moon crossing the sun is like a cigar cut, like.
And eclipses too, right?
Yeah, the eclipses, you know, like.
Yeah.
And then like new and full moons are like mini portals, but I think this portal that I really want to talk about today is so big because we have some pretty major transits that have come to an end in this new beginning of major transits. Uranus, of course, has now officially entered Taurus for 7 years. Chiron has now officially entered Aries for 8 years. And then I, as an evolutionary astrologer, have been kind of hounding people for like 7 years now about the Scorpio. The Scorpio is over. You know, there's nothing going to be going on there. There's no outer planets coming into Scorpio for 40 years. There's no Saturn there. I know, thank God, right?
Thank goodness.
So, I mean, that's kind of how I look at big portals. It's like, okay, look at these major long-term aspects all shifting at the same time. That, to me, is the same kind of portal of how you and I met. Mm-hmm. Chiron entered Pisces, Uranus entered Aries. And so there was this new portal. It was like, I guess I'm going to do astrology now? What was it like for you then?
It was 2011 was the year I decided to like go super serious with Christianity, which is why it was interesting that we met around then. Because I went from like being a super Jesus believer to, oh my God, the Bible is not inerrant. What do I do now? And I just started entering Soul Garden. So it's like, I was guided the whole way. But I didn't know it at that point. I still felt lost. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. But yeah, little did I know I'd be here on the stage at the end of this cycle.
I think that the way that you describe kind of, I don't know where I'm going, is where everybody is when they come into a portal.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like right now, everybody right now is like, what the heck is in front of me right now? I have no idea.
Definitely.
And I think that's what makes a portal a really fun and serious thing. I used to watch a show called Sliders back in the day with Jerry, what was it, Connell, or what's his last name? O'Connell. And you know, like, that was kind of multi-dimensional, you know, basically kind of like going through a portal of sliding through different realities in the same dimension or other dimensions, I guess you could say. I feel like we do have these kind of major choices at these points which we have arrived at as kind of the choice in which multidimensional persona or soul experience we're going to go through. And I think that's what's kind of made this one really intense over the last, I guess you could say, month and a half, as the beginning of 2019 came in, because it was the ending of these cycles. And here we are in March, and they've kind of fully clicked in.
True.
But there's that weird aspect of how Mercury is retrograde in the middle of that portal, which kind of makes it a last call before you're in the portal now, but like you have an option to kind of make a last minute change of your order, or in true Total Recall, the original one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, and he's like, when he's like going to recall and they start dosing him up and they're like, what kind of woman do you want? And he's all sleazy. And then he's like, brunette. It's like you're kind of like Mercury retrograde in Pisces. You're in the portal now and you're kind of like this, like, what is my subconscious really doing? And really, what does it really show?
At the final degrees too.
Yeah.
29
So what do you feel about
back.
that final degree?
To me, it's like the total understanding, like you get a glimpse of what could be, and then your mind might see too much, and it's like, okay, I need to like change it up real quick. Maybe you saw something you didn't want to see, and it's like, okay, I can't unsee that. But
how do you deal with that?
I mean, I'm not one to like hype Mercury retrogrades, because I like to think that people blame everything on it, but I booked the wrong flight. I was supposed to be out here like March. I booked the flight for April. I got into the wrong Lyft driver.
Tell them that story, because it was hilarious. Last night I'm like, if Mercury retrograde couldn't be more clear in Pisces, yours was pretty clear for me.
So I'm at the airport, and the driver comes up and he's like, oh, are you Michael? And I'm like, yeah. And then we drive out the airport, and then someone calls him and he's like, you're calling me, this is Michael. And I'm like, no, my phone's right here. And I'm looking at my Lyft like, why is it saying that the driver didn't depart yet? And then we both realized he's not even driving a Lyft, he's driving an Uber. And yeah. I was like, Mercury, you got me again. Damn it.
But I think that's important before we all go into this portal to kind of have that look. And I like how you bring it up. There's some things we don't really want to look at that's been seen, and we can't unsee it. Sure. Because that's kind of Pisces, where Pisces actually always sees it. But that's why it's also the sign of like, let me suppress that. It's not that you don't want to look at it. It's that you go, I'll first avoid that one for a little bit.
Yeah.
So procrastination on a lot of things right now while you're entering the portal, because you don't want to go through stress, right? The opposite of Pisces is Virgo, which is much more like, okay, I'm going to like do it, but it's going to be stressful, and get it over here. What time? Oh my gosh, you didn't vacuum. Did it? So Mercury retrograde at this portal is kind of this kind of dreamy portal, because we see it, but it's also so unknown that nobody knows where the hell they really are going next. They just have this centered heart, spiritual heart sense of where they want it to go, but they also have to come into full consideration of what is it inside that blocks that's been suppressed. Because I think we've all been operating for the last, let's say, 8 years, 9 years, since the beginning of this last portal that just ended, which was hell and heaven, but it was ascension to the max, spiritually, I'd say.
No, definitely. And having to confront like those facets of you that have been suppressed and that you may not want to admit you have, or seeing other people mirror it back to you too. So you have to confront it.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, I always look at it like we all kind of have our little crutches that we got through the last 8, 9 years with in ourselves to deal with ascension.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I think in the spiritual community, you know, when we talk about ascension, it's like, okay, yeah, you're waking up, and you're waking up out of a way different mindset, soul set, emotional set. Like, we can go on all levels of like what you even look at the world as in general. And it's a very hard wake up because there's so much subliminal kind of, I guess you could say, processing that has been implemented in our minds, in our souls, in our DNA throughout I call it pre-2012.
Yeah.
You know? A lot of people ask me, like, when is this going to end? I go, what do you mean end? They go, this is the new energy. You're going to have to get used to it. Nobody likes to hear that answer because they wanted ascension, but then they got it, and then they're like, well, wait, when does this change? I'm like, what do you mean? You got here. Welcome. This is the floor. Start to find a seat and get comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, you know, I'm into metal. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people know I DJ house music, but I listen to metal. Like, I don't listen to house music because I feel like when I DJ, it will be boring because I'll overdo it. So I listen to like, right? But it'd be like going, for me, it'd be like painstaking for me to like go to like a polka fest or something, you know? And like me being like, so when are they gonna change the music? Like, you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, oh, why don't you sit down and get a beer and it'll be a great time, you know what I mean? We're like, no!
Yeah.
And so I think that's where a lot of people are at. And I'm not here to say that we're all stuck and have to go listen to polka all day or whatever your music is that you're not going to want to listen to, because the universe does change the tone a lot. But I do feel that this next portal, we are more accustomed to this new energy than I think we give ourselves credit for.
That's very true. And it's kind of like, barring off what you said, people are so content in sitting in their personal hells, they forget that they could change the station or like walk out that cage. It's like those videos, this one meme where you have like this baby acting like it's drowning, but it's just stepping in shallow water. And it's like, hey, you're not drowning.
It's true, I like that. Well, I think we should bring Sophia up here because I'd love to get some female input into all this. Some 2 male versions can sometimes be a little bit, you know.
Hey, how are you guys?
What up, though?
What's going on?
Hey, nothing much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so Sophia and I met in Denver at my show in Denver on my tour this year. And she's been doing astrology videos online and on YouTube. Why don't you tell people a little bit about your astrology?
So I started a YouTube channel about astrology, and I started doing YouTubers like birth charts. So I'm really into YouTubers, like super fan, like nerd. And so I wanted to know what, like I would watch a video and I would be like, oh my God, that is a Leo thing to do, or I bet she has, you know, this Jupiter placement or something like that. And so I would look up their charts and I would kind of be right sometimes. So I was like, cool, like maybe I could do something with this. And so I did a few videos on some of my favorite YouTuber birth charts. And I've been working on my channel trying to figure out my niche, but that is really the main thing of what I wanted to talk about today because of what happened with Uranus recently. So I will touch on that. It went over my midheaven. So I'll get into like how I'm gonna be dealing with that and kind of like creating my own individual personality and my niche sort of with astrology. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
How do you feel like on like a world stage in your life, and where you're maybe, whether it's Denver or whether you feel like in the spiritual community or just in general in the world, how do you feel like all this energy that's changed, let's say with Uranus, where do you feel like it's taken the world? What's your own opinion about it?
Well, for the world, I mean, I'm thinking about what happened with the Great Depression, when Uranus went into Taurus then, and what we were dealing with, you know, war and stuff like that. And I know we're kind of facing similar subjects right now. So I'm curious to see how it will be this time, if it was going to be the same, if it will change slightly, or but I think it's the same type of energy that we're dealing with together, and I think it will depend on how we've evolved as a collective to how we react to this energy. So
True that.
Well, I also want to ask you, because you're a woman, and I feel that over the last 10 years, the energy of the divine feminine really has risen. And I'm feeling that this portal is the true, like, stepping on stage fully for women.
I agree.
Because I feel that, I was talking about this in all my original content, like 2012, 2013. I was really like, divine feminine. And then I realized, and I think Mike probably realizes the same thing as being a male, like, astrologer, is like, we deal with like 90% women, okay? And I think that the masculine's role has been kind of in this last, I guess you could say, portal, was to really give empowerment to women and let them realize, like, look at this goddess in you, like, go, like, do what you gotta do. Like, I don't know with you, Mike, but like, how many readings is it like, especially when it comes to like relationships, and there's this awakened woman coming up, and then they're in this relationship with the dude who's just like not awake, and then like, you know, like you see all their power, and then it's like, I don't know what to tell you. I've done the composite. I've done your relationship chart. I've done your synastry. It's just like, I'm sorry. Like, that's pre-2012. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's divine feminine time, girl. Go.
Go out with your bad self.
What do you like usually say? Go on with your bad self?
Well, usually it's like they just needed permission, I guess. Like, they already knew it, but it's like they wanted you to confirm it and let them know, yeah, you do got it.
But how do you feel like?
We had the Me Too and the Time's Up movement happen. So I think having that come to the forefront and the spotlight on that is going to affect us, especially in this feminine sign of Taurus. So I'm excited. I'm also wondering if, since when Uranus was in Aries, we started talking about toxic masculinity. And I'm wondering if we're going to look at women, because we also have a responsibility to lead healthy relationships, and we can't just all put it on the men. Like, oh, you know, he's not this and he's that, and like, we have to be right. So maybe let's look at some toxic femininity stuff that we can work on. Take responsibility, because that's what we expect men to do. So,
we got our ass handed with Uranus and Aries.
Short end of the stick on that one, but we got to turn it back around and kind of like ask ourselves, like, are we being hypocrites in some way, you know? So.
Damn, I haven't even thought about that one yet. That's why I was like, I need to get a girl up here, because man.
Yeah. I feel that women lately are kind of realizing, like, oh, I actually have value, and I can make that something that is a self-concept, a belief in myself that, okay, I deserve this, this is what I need, and that's a lot of like the Taurus energy as well. So it's going to be about how we value ourselves as women, and making sure that it's in alignment with what we're expecting of men as well.
Yeah, it'd be really nice, you know, if we brought back the old way of us sitting there and getting fed grapes. But I don't think that's going to happen again, because I don't think that that's the way it should be.
And it's not it's not women's turn to be fed grapes.
Right, exactly. I feel that it really is, because I feel and I think this was like kind of the subject matter, and I was asking Mike, is like, it really felt like as an astrologer, as a male, and empowering women over the last 7 years, like it was like this is like actually why I'm really here at the core. Sure, there was the collective conscious thing that was like my whole thing, collective consciousness. I remember people were like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's called collective unconscious. I'm like, No, I think it's the opposite. But it was like, that was like my main work, but I thought it was actually deeper. It was like, wow, actually it's been about this empowering women to come up, because I feel like there was so much suppression over the last couple thousand years, especially. I mean, it was a lot. I mean, it was happening at the end of the ancient times. Like they were decimating the feminine energy in like actual like you look at the Sphinx, they took off the feminine part of the Sphinx. They started like really eradicating it for a long time. And I think that this period was the rebalancing of it. And I think it did bring out the toxic male, now that I look at Uranus and Mars, because you got to remember that Aries is Mars, Taurus is Venus. So we had Fukushima when Uranus came back into Aries. This Uranus just went back into Taurus, and it was just kind of like Venus-y. Which is opposite, right? Like, right? Venus is like not gonna throw a fit right away. Mars right away is gonna throw a fit. That's true. Right? But you watch as
it builds.
As it kind of builds, you know.
I think there's also something too. I have been becoming educated on intersectional femininity. And I think that, you know, a lot of women, they're like, okay, so femininity, you know, are you a feminist? You know, and expecting men to be like, yes, I am, like we're all feminists, right? But the femininity is not intersectional right now. So what does that mean? It's not just liking one group of women and devaluing another. So that goes towards lots of different groups. That would include sex workers. It would include, you know, strippers, escorts, full service, like, and also our verbiage on all of that. So
or supermodels.
Yeah. Yes.
Or
you know,
I see it as a guy. Like
entertainment in general.
Well, in all areas of women, like it'll be like, oh, especially because I live in LA, like it's like, oh, she was in that movie, and that's like a movie where she just, you know, was in her bra. She's not a real actress. Or Madonna, because there was a clip of Madonna recently in the, I think it was late 80s, early 90s, and it was on 60 Minutes, and I forgot if it was Charlie Rose or it was one of them, and they were asking her about like, why are you taking a picture with your legs spread open showing your vagina, basically? And she goes, do you have a problem with a vagina? You know? I don't know if you guys remember this interview. And he was like, actually, this isn't about me, this is about you. Like, you didn't know how to handle the whole deal.
Yeah.
And I also think that in America, if people really start to look at why was Pluto declassified as a planet and brought back to a dwarf planet, well, what does Pluto rule? Sex, secrets, trust, truth, death. These are all things Americans don't want to deal with. We don't want to deal with death, so we throw makeup on you in your casket, we put some beautiful flowers around you, and then we close it quick and we go drink. When it comes to sex, oh, we do that in secret, we close the door, we close the windows, and we make sure the neighbors don't hear. Right?
Wow.
So let's just take Pluto and just not look at him anymore. Oh, yeah, I don't want to look at the Pluto no more. That's no coincidence, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that with the Scorpio energy of this last portal, that was the most intense we'll ever see mathematically in our lives, brought all that up to the surface, but I don't think it's been dealt with. And I think Taurus, which is the opposite of Scorpio, now has to integrate all that Scorpio work we did, because now the construction zone is Taurus, integrating into physical reality these deeper, hidden things. But I like how you brought up this kind of, what do you call it?
Intersectional.
Intersectional.
All types of women. All the women.
Because, like, I'll be honest, with guys, I don't care if a guy is in the military or he works at 7-Eleven or if he is an artist or if he's a Chippendales dancer, or if he, I don't know, is an astrologer. Like, guys, we all don't give a fuck really about that shit. We're just like, you cool, dude? Yeah, we're cool. We all have the same thing in mind, kind of like, they're girls tonight, or are we getting food, or what's the deal? Like, very clear.
Simple.
Like, who's driving? Okay, I'll drive. Cool. Get in the car. With women, it's like, and I'm in the club scene. It's like it's like right away. Boom. Oh, look at her and and then and look at her and. So I feel that you bring up an interesting point because actually I see this all the time, and I'm always sitting there going, oh, okay, but maybe that's part of the whole feminine role anyway. Because Venus is a very hard woman to catch. Because she's the hottest planet, right? True. If you were to go on Venus, you would just disintegrate. Like you would suffocate, first of all, of all the gases. You would be burned, like melted into like lava. And it's so uncertain, every part of the planet, what gases and what emission of heat and stuff is going on Venus. And also when you follow Venus in the cycle, how it retrogrades every 18 months, it's funny because when it goes through its retrograde cycle, it'll do a semi-square to the sun for months and months and months after the Cassini point, which is when it meets during the retrograde cycle. But then it will sit at a 45-degree angle for months. And that's where, like, you know, women kind of, you know, put a lot of things on a check, you know, like a balancing act. So like, well, did he do this to me yet or not? Or not, you know what I mean? Like, and then they can sometimes do that outside of that spectrum to other areas.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think it's interesting how you were saying, like, us women kind of, like, poking at each other, like, picking apart each other, and sort of not supporting, like, even if it's, like, gossip to your sis, like, in her ear, like, we need to really check ourselves and make sure, you know, we're not talking crap about, because she's us. That's your sister. We have to think of each other like that, and we can't be doing that catty stuff no more. I think that's part of the toxic femininity stuff. Just making sure we're all on the same team and not bringing each other down in any way. But yeah.
Yeah, what do you have to say, Mike?
Yeah, it's always been quite fascinating. My younger sister has told me stories about having to hang out with the boys in her age, because in her grade, because she would always get made fun of by the girls that she was with. So, you know, it just kind of makes me feel, hopefully there's not like some civil war coming under our nose, but
the women's civil war.
The clash of the feminine.
Well, it's like competition, right? Like, I feel like women are really competitive with each other, and that's one way that we, like, keep ourselves feeling like we're better than another girl, which, you know, we need to like let go of that. And
actually, if I think about this, right? So if we're in the age of Pisces ending, we were in the age of Aries last, right? This is what men did thousands of years ago. They were like competitive as hell against each other, right? About being emperors and kings and military commanders, and, you know, then you get a guy, Jesus, who's in the middle of all of that stuff going on, just kind of like healing people in a robe. Right? To bring in the age of Pisces, like, to kind of calm down this whole kind of like, you don't need to really compete so much about blah, 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 like, because it was like, let's be real, that's what it was. Like, there were centurions, there were Spartans, there were, you know, I mean, just in Rome alone, right? It was just like, and then there was an emperor, and then it was like, should we do a senate? And then the senate people are fighting with them, and I mean, just go watch Gladiator, right? Like, it's just like, you know, like everyone's like, and then they ended up in a bathhouse together all night, you know what I mean? So, and competing about how they were like, which boy was better to have in the bathhouse. That's a true story. Wow. It's kind of flipped now. You know?
Yeah.
That I feel that the masculine role has been in this last portal to raise that divine feminine, but I'll be honest, I think we're off the hook now. we're never off the hook as our role, because I feel that the true connection of a divine masculine and feminine is like masculine is to let the woman know how validated they are of their energy, their skill, their passion, their beauty, and to support them fully. Whereas there's also been, I think, the toxic male that it doesn't support women, wants to control women and say, no, don't do this. Let me check your phone. Blah, 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 blah. Because they're not, when you do that to a woman, then it's like, because women care so much, you know, that it takes away that beauty within them and strips it of them like lacquer thinner. Just like,
So true.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think women barely just started to be able to drive in like Saudi Arabia.
Oh, I
Yeah.
heard
or
about
the
that.
Middle East. Like they
it's
just
true. And so I think that this next portal is a more beautiful one. I know that it seems more scary just because if you look, and that's part of my talk is, you know me, I'm going to drop bombs. But they're going to be good bombs because I'm not afraid of what's next. I actually think it's going to be quite amazing. And I really think it is going to be a very much more in tune time with understanding how to handle the energies we've all gone through and actually really stabilize and find how to like really sit in this new energy and do something great with it. Because I think it's been just tossed on the wall and then seeing if it sticks lately. And I think that, you know, this conversation and where it went was obviously not the place I thought it was going to go, which is what's beautiful about entering into a portal is that we really all don't know where it all is going to go. But I think it's important to look at all these conversations and these different points, because if we really are going to reach this age of Aquarius in the next 100 years, that's the technical aspect. But at the cusp that we're at now, I mean, even though we brought up toxic parts of women, men still do it too. I mean, I can look at a million different ways men do it. And I think that we all are going to have to find it within both genders, but outside of both genders, there's this humanity now. Before we could really find ourselves and call ourselves what we understand ourselves as a human, I don't think that we actually know what that means. So I think that, and I've said this for a long time, that the alien is the human that doesn't know what it is, that we are aliens. Because alien is the description of an unknown, just unknown. Like, oh man, that thing over there is alien. We associate that with a green guy and a UFO, yet we are the multicolored, multi-hair type, eye-colored, like rainbow, violet to yellow to every color, emitting this unique vibration, and we're looking for this singular form, which there is no such thing. That we are this multiverse within ourselves, trying to find a reflection of a singular thing because we don't want to accept the multiversality of who we are.
I can agree with that.
Embracing multidimensionality, where it's not a concept anymore, but it's like
Yeah.
we're being put in situations where it has to come out, or Pluto make it in not the most comfortable way.
Oh yeah, it's true. I just, you know, before we get Mike here to do his talk, I just want to ask you both, just kind of maybe whether it's personally or whether it's, you know, what you feel for the world, just kind of how it feels for you both leaving this, because you know what's funny is I feel that 2019 is already the end of the decade. Even though we're like thinking of it as 2020, it feels like it's right now, energetically, because I felt, you know, if we're really talking astrology, like astrologically, the end of the decade is like in the next 2 weeks when Mercury comes direct, Sun comes into Aries with the full moon. Like, that's all the energy of the 2010s is done, and this is all happening in 2019, this new vibe. So, what do you both think? And
I mean, like, the establishment is on my mind mostly. And with Pluto and Saturn and Capricorn right now, we all know structures are coming down, and whether it's going to be in banking or it's in just the way that we have our government right now or in our own lives, how we are managing everything, it's going to be a change. Like, no more of that old stuff. The traditional stuff is not useful to us anymore, so I think it's going to be fun to figure out like the new, you know?
Says like the multi-Capricorn.
I have 5 placements in Capricorn.
Yeah.
So it's hitting me real good right now.
Jesus. Yeah.
I love Mike. What are you feeling?
Yeah, a lot of what Sophia said for sure. Like, I just feel this mass rejection of the old traditions, even people clinging to it. A lot of people have different beliefs and whatnot, but they're all wanting the same thing, something new, something different. And I could sense like there's just a breakthrough from this fear of actually being yourself and like getting rid of imprinting of being yourself and getting shame for that. So I think that's awesome to see, like people starting to embrace themselves without like without doing it for an incentive, just because they can. So it's almost like people need permission to do so, and they're giving themselves that permission, which I think is dope.
I like, both those views, because I agree with the world itself going through a complete overhaul as far as structurally, but that's coming from the personality and the psyche and the soul of individuals in the collective having to learn to embody their best self, but to feel good about life. I think that one thing that kind of came out of this last portal was, you know, this happened to me, and all of us, including myself, feel it. Like, gosh, man, it was bumpy. We lost scratches from that climb. And I feel that this one's allowing people to find and know deep in themselves that they don't have to hold that vibe as much as more as that they can feel better now. Like, there's actually going to be new ways through changing the world, through changing structures, that you can feel better. Like, there's an instant way to feel better now. There's a better way to feel better all the time. And I think that this is like a new conditioning of getting out of the conditioning of, man, this was hard to get here. This was I went through this, and then because all that really,
it's irrelevant.
This is a fresh new chapter. There's a fresh new sheet of paper, and we don't want to start, coming in like the girl in the ring and start drawing like, black rings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Didn't turn out too good for that girl. So I feel that there was that one scene that really got me in the ring where they're on the ferry and the horse falls behind it and the blood in the water, right? I don't know why I got that, because it's like, do we really have to keep bringing our lives as we're crossing this ferry into seeing the trail of destruction that we might think is behind us, when really it has been a release of an unconscious self, which was fragmented, and there has to be a compassion element in ourselves now to allow ourselves to not look at what happened, what was done, the guilt, the fear of, and this is going to bring up a lot of religious conditioning of like, am I going to hell because I did that in that cycle, or I did this? I think we were all on a massive learning curve for finding who we are. And I think this is where we do our great work now. And so to do great work, you have to like any good story, you just show up and make it the best. And it's about feeling good. Taurus is the sign that truly is the garden of feeling good. It is smelling the flower. It is harvesting the honey from the bee, except for the vegans. It is this huge point of really enjoying the soil and enjoying the fresh air, enjoying the smell of the forest, hearing the rain, hearing the birds. And it's like, we're not hearing that right now. All we're hearing is the background noise of what happened. We're hearing the scream of that fight in that relationship. We're hearing the cry of that one thing that happened, whatever, about something. And taking those noises out and focusing on the beauty in front and immersing ourselves into that is what I feel is what this next cycle is about. So, you know, if you go into the woods and you're by yourself, are you hearing the birds and the noises, or are you hearing your old self still? Do you guys hear the bird?
Yes.
And what's interesting is in the Palladian channels, they always talk about, especially why the pharaohs always had birds. There's always been this battle between the birds and the reptiles. And we just went through the reptile and the reptilian portal. Because the way to awake is through the root chakra, that's the first chakra. And there is a very harsh survival tendency of going through what we went through. But we are raising now up to the throat in the opposite. But this also means that your empowerment has to come from your straight self and how you actually own your power. And that can be a little hard when you're in a survival mode and you're almost running off survival. And the other part of pleasure, which is root chakra pleasure, which can be quick, fast things, whether it's, oh, I want to eat this sugar right now, to I need to watch pornography, or I need to do this, or I need to buy this to feel good real quick. Because Scorpio, the reason why Venus is at detriment and the moon's at fall there is because emotionally and with our vibration of what we do to feel better, it will never pay off fully. Because of that, because you have to be in a Tauran world of sitting, smelling, relaxing in it. I have that RV parked out there. I could be somewhere and get somewhere and then keep going, but I don't enjoy the RV unless I actually just stop and just sit outside it and just like do nothing for a minute and feel everything and watch people go in and out of it. And actually take the time and pull out the barbecue and put the coals in and light them and sit and have good conversation and make ourselves feel better and talk about life in the past. And I think that we're coming to a place where it's like, we're at the garden now. Let's not come in here with all this crazy shit.
True that. If anything, we'd have to come in with the thing that we may fear the most, which is the greatest part of ourselves. And that's what really tripped me out. Like, some of the things that we block are some of the things we want the most, because you make that shift from wanting it to actually having it, and then you don't want to lose what you got. So really just excited because we went through that, we've stepped through that portal. So now, you know, there's no more excuses, and we get to finally build and show ourselves what happens when we show up to what's meant for us, what we definitely need to do.
Just suit up and show up.
Like
Let the magic happen.
Like you showing up in Denver.
Like me showing up here.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting to be here today. I didn't fly here for this. but I'm here. It's crazy.
Made it work.
Well, I think the other part that I want to bring up about Taurus is Taurus knows exactly what it wants. So it triggers the spiritual community, money, because money is a sense of actual fuel to create what you have to do. Because Taurus knows, I want this color leather, that sunroof, black mirrors that fold when I push it, and if I push unlock twice, all the windows better roll down. Some people don't even know that cars do that. And so one part about abundance, one thing that happened, and this is going to be part of my talk, is go look at 34 through 39 and how money was done and how people were living. There was people living really good, but they were only people who understood that these things existed that were possible to have, and people that don't look at them and don't believe in them get zada with Uranus. Uranus either gives you everything or nothing. It really does. And this is going to be a true test of that self-worth, because I think Mike says it the best. We step into this garden with our best self, but with that best self is not only a spiritual best self, it is a knowing of what you want to have. Taurus is about having, Scorpio is about receiving it in a way, but actually not being able to ever fully hold it because it dies. You know? Taurus is where we bring it life, and it never dies, because when a mother gives birth to a child, even if that child dies on them, or even if they die before that child, like most of the time happens, the emotion, the feeling, the birthing never leaves or dies. The birthing of when you first created your own life out of high school or whatever you did never dies, because it's a sense of worth, a sense of that you created, a sense that you had to step into a place where you had to know your value in yourself, you had to know your worth, and you had to know your creative power. And that's something that never dies. And so this is a trigger happy garden, because people are going to start looking around and going like, why do they have that garden and I don't have that garden? Like, why did they get that nice flower and you left me a dandelion? But I feel that God created all things for a purpose, and even the dandelions. I don't know why they call dandelions weed. They're not that bad looking. You know? But it really is kind of a sense of like, if you do go to a flower shop, because Taurus rules the flowers, like, there are better flowers out there that cost more money. And, you know, when you do a wedding, you know, like, every woman's looking around going, like, yeah, they went cheap on the flowers. I'm like, how do these girls know all this stuff, man? I don't know. But it's true. There's going to be, like, where we step into our best selves, don't think of it as money. Think of it as, okay, like, can I really be better? Can I put myself at the top shelf, or am I going to just continue to be like at the checkout at Target, like at the lower shelf where you have to go real low and I'm putting myself at 99 cents for $3? Or are you the special one in the back that has to go to a special, you know, antique china shop and like have a appointment to be looked at?
I remember you did a talk, and there were so many people who were closed off to you in the comments, and it kind of made you realize that there's still so many people who have yet to be open to stuff like this. And my first question is, well, kind of bridging off of that, have you ever been approached by people who make you feel like you're wrong for charging for your services? And like, what is advice for people who might have to go through that?
It might sound crazy, but I would say that I've only maybe been attacked for charging, like maybe like, who knows, like 1,000 times. But that's like 1% of, right? Because like, just last night I was looking at how many notifications I've sent out on my app over the last 4.5 years, and it's 1.3 million.
Wow.
So that's what I mean is like, after all the and then, you know, like I hit like 2 million likes on posts on my Facebook like in this last 6 months. So that's what I mean, like maybe 1,000 out of like 2 million plus of like, it's more love.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But I would say the best way to deal with like charging for your services or whatever is like, I mean, these cameras, this table, somebody built it. They want money for it.
It's an exchange of energy.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
fair. Like, you can't just be like, do labor for me for free, please. And
I
you
think
use
it's,
your
yeah.
mind and your, like, all your skills and your talent, please.
Yeah.
What it is the sensitivity of empaths and spiritual people who we are we give a lot. We're givers. We want to help. So it's about us creating our own guilt about helping for money, when really it's a different exchange. It's really about, you know, offering a service of empowerment, of enlightenment, wherever you want to call it, and people who value that highly are going to pay for that, and people who don't are not. And it's not that you're suck at what you do, or if you don't get paid for that, or whatever. It's like maybe that those people who don't buy that, that's not what's valuable to them. So it's about not feeling bad within yourself about you put something out, it does great, sometimes it doesn't. It's just like, okay, maybe people aren't valuing that right now. Okay, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll come from a personal perspective here, and this is what I'm going to talk about in my Lightworkers School about building a business in this community. Is like, you have to remember when I was doing this a long time ago, it was like a field day for me. It was like empty. There was like nobody out there doing it, like every day. So I was able to build it really fast, and I was able to monetize myself on it very fast. It was very awesome. Especially, I was like the first person to put out a monthly webinar video astrology horoscope. Literally, I was the only person on the internet doing it in 2013. Nobody was doing it every month. So I remember I was making like 14 grand at one point for a monthly horoscope. Today, it's like 3 grand. That's how much the markets got flooded with everybody doing it now.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, do I lose my value because at one point I could just throw out a monthly and it was like the big chicken dinner, you know what I mean? Or did it make me realize that there's other things that I need to find to make better value in myself and for others that's going to be more valuable than just a monthly horoscope? So it's a lesson of you will do great at things, you'll build things great, and there's a reason why that they maybe lose their value. In a sense, they don't, that they are actually bringing to a higher level to create something better. It's like if Leonardo da Vinci just painted one picture and just lived off that one picture all day, right? Like, okay, great. It's a lot of like a one-hit wonder bands. They made that one big song, and then they're sitting there 20 years later like, pay me. Chumbawamba was huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I remember singing, I get knocked down, and I get up again, and we're just repeating that same line over and over, and I get knocked down. And that was like really popular for like a year. But now, it's like the last song I'd ever want to do. Mm-hmm. Even if it was a throwback concert, I don't think I'd go for that song.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, it just, I think, is about not, it's not about the exterior, but more the interior in yourself. It's like, you know, you have something, you put it out there, you know it's great, and then if it does well or it does not, that's up to whatever you feel is good or well. Sometimes I put up something that I think is the most amazing thing in the world, like, and it did okay, but I know the value of that, and it might reach in other ways. It doesn't matter about how much money you make as much as if you're impacting one person who would change their lives. And you know, in this social media world, we look at followers so much and all that, and I don't look at that stuff. Like, I really don't. I'm just like, okay, whatever. Because I've kind of like experienced an alternate reality where like I don't have a lot of followers. Like to some people it's a lot. I'm almost to 70,000 on YouTube, and that's like my highest, right? So like that's nothing. But there's all these people out here with millions. There's astrology meme pages with millions. There's all these things with millions. But like I could put out a post in 24 hours and say, meet me in Phoenix, and have 70 people show up. Whereas like, when I was in my app, it was interesting, and it's a good Taurus kind of question, because it was like, what they did is, my app partners at the time just hit up a bunch of big celebrities and YouTube stars with millions of followers. But they hit me up because they were like, well, you already have a subscription-based model, and you already need a platform, so we want to bring you on. But you don't have a lot of followers? I'm like, no. Well, we'll try you out. But they were like banking on this one girl who had 3.4 million followers on YouTube. They banked on this 10 million follower girl. They used the same platform like I did Leo King in 2014. They did the same thing with them, and all of them only made it 3 months.
Wow.
So they had all these followers, and nobody would pay $5 to go on their app.
Wow.
Because the information was not valuable.
Yeah.
It was just, I'm walking through my house, and I'm doing my hair, and I'm talking to my friend, and then I'm talking to the cat, and then I'm showing them my new couch, and right?
Yeah.
Now, people value that, I think, in an entertainment sense, or they value that, and I'm not putting it down, because, hey, they're out there putting out their soul. But I think that what we're also seeing at the new portal with Taurus is people are reevaluating what is valuable.
Yeah.
So nobody gives a flying fuck about a reality star anymore.
No, like they used to.
And maybe
Or
we're
the
talking from the
shows.
spiritual community view. I don't know. But I really feel that when I talk to people, like nobody's watching television. Nobody's really watching everybody's wanting knowledge to be better in themselves. Everybody's wanting to have a better life. Everybody's wanting to connect soul to soul. And that's where I feel the quality of life is going. And Uranus rules people, rules the collective, and it's in Taurus. The collective is searching for what is valuable and what is not, and we'll determine that in this new portal.
Amen.
Yeah, so we're going to take a 5-minute break. So if any of you guys, anybody out there in the audience wants to take a little break for a second, because Mike's going to come on. And then out there, if you're watching on live stream land, we want you to be able to go, even if you're on your phone, you're probably on the toilet already watching. But, we're going to take a little 5 to 7 minute break. Then we'll get Mike up here. He's going to speak. Then Sophia's going to do a quick talk too, and then I'm going to finish it out, and then we'll do a Q&A, and then the meet and greet and so forth. So we have water inside there with cups and everything if you guys want some water, and the restrooms as well. And thanks all for being here, and thank you, Sophia and Mike, for joining me in this fun conversation and being part of highvibe.tv. And by the way, I want to just put the announcements that the new highvibe.tv app is going to be coming out here very soon, and Future Life's moving on to that. And it's a whole new platform with a lot more content, all filmed here at these studios. And it's been quite a big project and a lot of amazing people involved. And I just want to say thank you to all those people that have been involved and all those people that are making it happen, because it's a dream come true for the spiritual community, I feel personally, to finally really start to create this new wave of how to bring people together and raise the vibe, but also be open with all subjects and all matters. And so I appreciate all you being here, and I appreciate you two being on stage, and I appreciate everybody behind the scenes right here that are part of it and that make that all happen, because I feel that if we all look at that from all angles, that we're all not on the same angle, but no one is better than the other. And that's, I think, a good way to look at the value of the collective.
Show.
We'll see you soon.